The question of making cyberbullying a criminal offense is certainly a complicated one. There is no perfect answer. There is no response that is going to make everyone happy. But what is the best for those actually involved? Bullying is a cycle. We cannot reverse the damage that has been done, but we can stop the cycle before it starts again. Picture criminals, we tend to envision a certain kind of person, but what if these criminals are not anything like our usual suspect IDs? What if these criminals are teenagers in high school, and what if they're as young as middle school students? What if their crime is in part due to our lack of attention? How can our first answer be criminal charges when our criminals are children themselves? Cyberbullying is a pandemic, and it's nothing to take lightly, but making it a criminal offense is not the answer. At least it shouldn't be our first one. There are several other questions to answer and strides to take before making teenagers criminals. The problem with cyberbullying remains in the fact that we know very little about it. It is a form of bullying or harassment that we still are unfamiliar with. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as the electronic posting of mean-spirited messages about a person, such as a student, often done completely anonymously. An important thing to remember about cyberbullying is that it's all online. These are not your hallway brawlers. These menaces are confined to their computer screens and typically stay there. It's sneaky and quiet, and with a phone or computer in the hands of every millennial, apparently it's quite hard for them to hide from. Many families fear what this means for their children, and with good reason. This threat is a mystery that we as a community are unsure how to combat. We must accept that although this wave of bullying is one we are not familiar with, it is still very real, and in recent years has led to tragedy, and in some very rare cases, suicide. That being said, the anonymity of the internet makes it hard for victims' families to be aware and ultimately help, considering they're not dealing with this out in the open, but on private chat rooms and websites their parents are not even on. Not only does the mystery of social media allow users the confidence to say things they wouldn't do or say otherwise, but it creates a blind conversation that is hard to address in public situations. Filled to the brim with hormones and a confusing concept of maturity, these kids are given no rulebook. Bullying of any sort, resulting in death or not, is an act that deserves a punishment. But it is also a tragedy to send these children to prison for typing words that had bigger actions than they might have intended. This is no excuse for the awful things they say and do online, but is it criminal? I don't believe so. Every conversation about cyberbullying is centered around young adults and teens still in school. Making cyberbullying a crime would result in teenagers as young as those affected facing full criminal charges, and yet nobody taught these young kids how to act. Before deciding that law and order is the answer, first and foremost, more conversations need to be had centered around the idea of internet etiquette. We cannot give undeveloped kids this much freedom without restraint. The more mystery surrounding the internet and what is being said and done online, the less we can help these children. We need to be reinforcing open communication with our youth. This means not only talking about bullying, but also about homophobia and inclusion and mental health as well. All the things that make these kids feel like they're being misunderstood and alone. The conversations we are having with our kids must be bigger and they must be had. Paul Butler of the New York Times wisely put, "If a bully crosses the line between freedom of speech and an invasion of privacy or harassment, those are the crimes he should be charged with. It is one thing to harass someone online and an entirely other thing to put someone in danger. Once the issue breaches anything outside of the realm of the internet, we are no longer dealing with a cyberbully." There are over 400 federal offenses a person can violate in the United States. If a particular cyberbully has not violated one of those 400 offenses, the likes of him or her being a criminal is not high, but rather that they're more than likely just a mean person with far too much freedom on the internet, and no way to use it. If there is no way for a cyberbully to be prosecuted, that would mean that the outcome of the bullying was unpredictable and not in their hands, or that they may not have intended to commit a crime. Our main concern should always be trying to keep our children safe. Sharing those children with prison will not do that, nor will it reverse the effects of whatever happened on or off screen. Cyberbullies have a lot less freedom than your schoolyard bully does, and can only do harm with their keyboards. Therefore, there is a deeper issue here than people just not being nice. The questions we should be asking: why do our children feel alone in this? Why do they feel like they cannot get help? What are we as a society failing to do for them? Locking up the people who were unkind will not answer any of those questions, nor will it make it easier for us to fix this confusion the internet has created, until we are addressing the bigger problems of what we teach our children and how to behave when we are not there to watch. We cannot act as though it is all their own doing, nor can we pretend that these kids are not suffering from bigger things.